Hey guys, tonight we're going to shadow a Roman senator through every tiny, ridiculous, and oddly charming detail of his morning routine. From waking before sunrise to dodging goat-smelling clients, you'll witness the structured chaos of elite Roman life, one crust of bread and toga fold at a time. The air is cool, the stone beneath your feet even cooler, and yes, there will be no coffee. You probably won't survive this routine, but that's okay, because you're just here to drift off. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I always love seeing the little sleep map we build together. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The room is still dark when you feel the first soft sounds of the day. Fabric shifting, sandals scuffing lightly outside your chamber. You don't need to open your eyes to know the slaves are already awake. They're trained to move quietly, but in a Roman domus, even the quiet carries. You remain still for just a moment longer. The ceiling above you is invisible, shrouded in pre-dawn shadows. Somewhere in the distance, a rooster crows, early, rude, and smug, like he knows he outranks you in punctuality. Your eyes open slowly. There's no warm glow of sunrise yet, just a thin hint of blue through the atrium's open ceiling. You shift under your linen blanket. It's scratchier than it looks, but it's yours. Imported from Egypt, probably. You make a mental note to ask your steward how much it cost again, then immediately forget. Now the door creaks slightly, and the familiar flicker of oil lamp light edges into your room. Your body slave enters. He's a quiet one, thankfully. Not one of those eager morning types. He knows better than to speak before you've moved. He places a small copper basin of warm water at the foot of your bed. There's no such thing as a Roman shower, but cleanliness is still a public virtue, especially when you're a senator. You swing your legs over the edge and immediately regret it. The floor is cold. You wince slightly but try not to show it. Dignity, always. A senator doesn't whimper about cold floors. As you sit upright, your slave offers you a damp cloth, gently wrung with lavender water. You wipe your face, methodically. Forehead, cheeks, jaw. It's refreshing, but the sharp herbal scent makes your nose twitch. Lavender again. Always lavender. You make a mental note, again, to try something else next week. Then promptly forget that too. Your shoulders ache a bit. That's what you get for falling asleep on scrolls again. You stretch, spine popping gently like the sound of a clay pot settling on a shelf. Age is creeping in, and you know it. Still, you tell yourself, senators don't age, they season. You reach for a small wooden comb and begin to run it through your hair. It's not a mirror-shiny hairstyle kind of day. Not that you have many of those left. Your hair is thinning, but so is everyone else's. Caesar himself was famously touchy about his bald spot. You wonder briefly, if anyone whispers about yours. You suspect they do. In the hallway, another slave's footsteps echo. He's lighting lamps one by one, as the house begins to wake. You can hear distant voices now, kitchen staff clattering clay pots, a child's brief squeal, quickly hushed. Your wife's quarters are still quiet, thank the gods. She tends to rise later. The parrot in the atrium, however, is already muttering. That bird has opinions. You stand now, and the linen tunic, your nightwear, hangs loosely around you. It's plain, simple, and just a bit itchy. Romans don't do soft pajamas. You glance toward the open window. Still dark, but the city is stirring. Rome never sleeps entirely. Somewhere, a baker is sweating over an oven, and a gladiator is possibly nursing a hangover. You envy neither. As you begin to wash your hands in the basin, your thoughts wander to today's agenda. There's the morning client parade. There's the Senate, of course, some argument about aqueduct allocations or grain shipments from Egypt, and then lunch at Lucius' house. You suppress a groan. He's known for three things: long speeches, cold mullet fish, and a wife who flirts like it's a full-time job. Still, you're a senator. You don't pick your obligations. You wear them like layers of wool. Heavy, noble, and slightly damp. You take a deep breath, inhaling the mingled scents of oil, stone, and the faintest whiff of ash from last night's hearth. The city awaits, and your routine has only just begun. You shuffle forward, feet brushing the cool marble with reluctant precision. The air still carries the bite of early dawn, and it curls around your bare legs like a teasing draft. Your slave follows silently, holding the oil lamp aloft. The flame dances across the hallway's painted walls, faded scenes of gods, battles, and a rather enthusiastic depiction of Bacchus that your uncle insisted was tasteful. As you make your way toward the side chamber, your foot briefly finds a patch of cold water. One of the younger servants must have overfilled a basin during night cleanup. You inhale sharply through your nose but say nothing. They'll hear about it later. From your steward, of course. You're far too important to scold over puddles. The door to your washing area opens with a soft groan. It's not a bathroom in any modern sense. No sink, no porcelain throne. Instead, it's a compact chamber with shelves of folded linen cloths, a low wooden bench, several clay jars, and the omnipresent basin of warm water. Everything is functional, Spartan even, because even the elite Romans didn't lounge in bubbles and steam. Not at home, anyway. Two house slaves, both boys around 12, both terrifyingly efficient, are already waiting. One holds your fresh tunic, meticulously folded. The other kneels beside the basin, adjusting the water temperature with a long-handled copper ladle. You sit carefully on the bench, and the ritual begins. First, your hands. Then your arms, face, neck, and behind the ears. Always behind the ears. You close your eyes and allow the warm cloth to press gently against your cheeks. There's a rhythm to it, one you've known since boyhood. Wipe, rinse, wring, repeat. The water's laced with rose and myrrh. A bit much for your taste, but your wife insists it lifts the mood. Historians still argue whether elite Roman men truly preferred such floral touches, or if it was merely domestic diplomacy at play. Either way, you don't complain. But the boy patting your forehead suddenly sneezes, loudly. You open one eye. He freezes, eyes wide. You both pause in awkward silence. Then, with the smallest twitch of a smile, you mutter, "Try not to sneeze on senators." He exhales in visible relief, and you return to your half-sleeping haze. Now comes the oil. A servant uncorks a small amphora, and the sharp scent of olive hits your nose. It's cold, always is, but it's necessary. Roman hygiene isn't about soaps. It's about oil and scraping. Your slave dips his fingers and begins rubbing the oil into your skin. Wrists, forearms, chest, even the tops of your feet. It's not unpleasant, but you always feel vaguely like a roast boar being prepped for a banquet. A strigil, your personal bronze scraper, is next. It's curved and cool and very, very Roman. He drags it across your skin, gently scraping off the oil, the dust, the sins of yesterday. You imagine little flakes of toga lint and political ambition peeling away. This is the moment you usually let your mind drift. Maybe today you'll finally confront Senator Pulcher about that grain deal. Or maybe you'll let it slide. Depends on whether the fish at lunch is fresh. Once the scraping is done, a final rinse cloth is patted over your skin. You're clean. Or at least Roman clean. The fresh tunic is offered. You step into it as gracefully as possible, arms extended like a bored statue. The fabric is soft linen, dyed just barely off-white. White tunics are for newer senators trying too hard. Yours says, "I'm wealthy, but I don't need to shout about it." Now the sandals. Simple leather, polished to a dull shine. One of the boys buckles them while the other inspects your feet for any cuts or calluses. It's not a health check. It's more like a daily inventory of wear and tear. Senators aren't supposed to have peasant feet. A quick glance in a polished bronze mirror tells you what you already knew. Tired eyes, salt and pepper hair, and a permanent squint that says you've read too many scrolls by candlelight. Your slave offers you a light cloak. It's ceremonial, mostly. The temperature doesn't demand it, but the dignity does. As you leave the chamber, the scent of baking barley loaves drifts in from the kitchens. It's a comforting smell, familiar and earthy. Someone's dropped a pan, followed by hushed swearing. You pretend not to hear it. Back in the hallway, the light is slowly shifting from lamp glow to natural gray. The atrium's open roof lets in a pale sliver of early dawn. You can hear birds now, and unmistakably, the parrot screeching something that sounds like useless goat. It learned that from your cousin, you're fairly certain. You take a breath. You're clean, clothed, and very mildly oiled. The city is stirring. Time to eat, though in Rome, that's more a formality than a feast. You make your way toward the triclinium, your household's modest dining room for these early, informal meals. It's not the grand affair used for hosting magistrates or wealthy allies. That one gleams with mosaic tiles and oversized couches. No, this room is simpler. A few wooden stools, a reclining bench, and a small square table, all faintly smelling of olive oil and old citrus. Your feet are still adjusting to the stiffness of your sandals as you cross the threshold. The floor here is colder than the hallway's marble. Maybe it's the drafts or the gods playing one of their practical jokes. You pull your cloak closer, though you're not sure why. It's more of a political garment than a functional one. Your body slave hovers nearby with a damp cloth for your hands. You dab, not scrub. The ritual never ends. On the table, your steward has already laid out the typical senator's breakfast, the ientaculum. You know what's coming before you even see it. A chunk of barley bread, slightly stale, with a dab of honey that's more hopeful than generous. A few olives, wrinkled and sour. A date or two, mostly for show. And a small clay cup of watered-down wine. Because nothing starts a Roman morning like a casual sip of fermented grape juice diluted into barely respectable juice. You sit, deliberately not reclining this early in the day. Reclining is for evening dinner parties and dramatic political arguments. Mornings are for spine-straight, slightly annoyed consumption. You bite into the bread. It's dry enough to remove moisture from your soul. You chase it with wine. The wine tastes red. That's all you can say about it. Not good, not bad, just ancient. Your steward appears, quietly reading your mood. "Is the honey sufficient, Dominus?" he asks. You don't answer. You raise an eyebrow. "That's enough." He vanishes like a puff of amphora smoke. As you chew, your mind wanders again. Senators may lead armies, craft legislation, and command influence, but they do so on roughly 300 calories of carbs and acidic fruit. Historians still argue whether this diet contributed to Rome's intellectual prowess or merely made them irritable before noon. From the corridor, you hear footsteps. Familiar, measured, silk slipper soft. Your wife. She doesn't enter but calls through the curtain with something between a question and a reminder. Something about dinner with her cousin. You grunt a non-committal reply. That usually works. After breakfast, you wipe your mouth on the cloth twice. Because you're a Roman, and Romans know presentation is everything. You rise, leaving the sad remains of breakfast untouched. The parrot in the atrium has decided now is the right moment to recite half a legal decree. Something about land rights and manure usage. You briefly consider putting a cloth over its cage, then remember it doesn't even have one. Freedom of speech, parrot edition. Next comes the grooming. Again. A slave follows you to the side chamber, this time with your grooming kit. A small, carved wooden box containing tweezers, a razor, and a bronze pick for your teeth. It's less self-care, more political hygiene. Senators are judged not only on their words, but on how symmetrical their ear hair appears. You sit on a stool, and your grooming slave begins. First, the razor. He carefully scrapes away yesterday's stubble with olive oil and determination. It's not a clean shave. Romans don't aim for perfection, but a kind of ritual smoothing. Like sculpting marble that's already mostly fine. You wince once when he nicks your chin. He freezes. You look at him. He looks at you. Neither of you speaks. He resumes, a touch gentler now. The tweezers come next, plucking stray hairs from eyebrows and nose with terrifying focus. It's said that Emperor Hadrian once banned overly groomed men from court appearances. You try to strike the right balance. Tidy, but not vain. And then the toothpick. A careful cleaning with a minty paste of crushed herbs and vinegar. Surprisingly refreshing. You roll your tongue along your teeth and nod faintly. Acceptable. Lastly, perfume, though you'd never call it that. It's scented oil, of course. Masculine. Complex. A blend of myrrh and citrus. Your steward says it's imported from Hispania, which is probably why it costs as much as a mule. You dab a bit on your wrists, neck, and, somewhat rebelliously, behind your ears. You're ready now, or close enough. Before you head out, you take a moment by the family shrine, the lararium. It's a small niche in the wall, adorned with miniature figures of your household gods, the Laras and Penates, along with your father's funeral mask. You murmur a brief prayer. Nothing too dramatic. Just a whispered request for smooth roads, cooperative clients, and no awkward toga malfunctions. You light a small bit of incense. The smoke curls up, sharp and sweet. For a moment, You let your eyes close. This part, the shrine, the smell, the memory of your father's stern face, is always grounding. You whisper, "Let the Senate be short today." Your father's bronze mask doesn't reply. Outside, the city is brightening. Vendors shouting, sandals slapping cobblestones, carts creaking under early deliveries. Rome is waking up, and so are you. You step into the atrium again, this time fully dressed, oiled, and groomed, every inch of you curated like a marble bust. The sun has now spilled across the open courtyard, bouncing off the shallow pool in the center. Your household staff is already in motion, sweeping, scrubbing, setting out fresh rushes. One girl walks by with a basket of laundry on her head, barely acknowledging your presence, which you allow because she's efficient and never breaks a dish. Your litter is waiting outside the front door, its silk curtains drawn back to let the morning air in. For strong slaves stand beside it, arms crossed, waiting silently like a scene from a relief carving. One of them yawns. You pretend not to notice. After all, it's not you who does the carrying. Your toga is draped over a servant's arm, all 20 feet of it. It's the official uniform of the senatorial class. More burden than garment. You take a breath and lift your arms as two slaves begin wrapping it around you with the solemnity of a sacred rite. The folds are complex, heavy, and if placed incorrectly, likely to cascade down like a fallen tent mid-forum. You once saw a fellow senator trip on his own hem and fall into a fountain. You never let him forget it. Historians still argue whether Romans actually wore their togas all day, or only when forced to, like children in itchy holiday clothes. But today is a Senate day, so there's no escape. The wool scratches at your neck like it holds a grudge. A final tug, a quick check of the drape across your left arm, and it's done. You're now indistinguishable from 1,000 other important men trudging toward the Curia, equal in fabric, if not in ambition. You step into the litter, the curtains drawn closed behind you. The city outside muffles slightly, becoming a rhythm of hoofbeats, shouts, and pottery clinks. You sway gently with each step your bearers take. The motion is oddly calming. You can feel the weight of your morning fade, replaced by the anticipation of public life. As you move through the streets, the smells change. First, the sweet aroma of baking bread. Then, smoke from a brazier. Then, unfortunately, the fishmonger's alley, a smell that reminds you of defeat in naval battle. You wrinkle your nose. The curtain flutters slightly as if trying to protect your dignity. You peek through a gap in the fabric. There's a woman selling garlands, already arguing with a customer. Two boys wrestle over a figure. A man in a grubby tunic relieves himself against a wall without breaking eye contact with your litter. Ah, Rome. Your litter slows. Not for you, of course, but for a passing procession. A minor noble's daughter being carted toward her wedding. She looks bored. Her veil is crooked. You wonder if she's marrying for politics or property. Likely both. The bearers resume, lifting you above the grime of the city. It's one of Rome's crueler ironies that the higher your social status, the less of the actual city you touch. Your thoughts drift again. You mentally rehearse what you'll say in the Curia. Nothing too bold, not this early in the month. Perhaps you'll support the grain subsidy bill, unless Senator Metellus is against it. You hate agreeing with Metellus. He chews his figs with his mouth open. As you approach the forum, the sounds sharpen. You hear clanging tools from a blacksmith stall. A vendor cries out about freshest eels in the district. There's a man standing on a crate, reading poetry to an audience of 2 dogs and a drum. You briefly consider stopping him with a coin to perform for your next dinner party. Or maybe not. He rhymed Jupiter with pooper. The litter comes to a halt near the steps of the Curia Julia. This is it, the seat of Roman power, the theater of politics, the Colosseum of controlled egos. You stretch your legs one at a time and emerge like a butterfly from a very woolly cocoon. The sun is higher now, and it catches on the golden trim of your fibula, the brooch that pins your toga just so. You nod at 2 fellow senators. One returns the gesture. The other pretends to admire a pigeon. Before entering, you pause. Just for a heartbeat. You adjust the fold of your toga again. Appearances matter. Your posture straightens. Your brow furrows, just enough to say, I am concerned about the state of the Republic, but not so much as to look constipated. Then you climb the steps. Inside the Curia, it's cooler. The stone walls breathe ancient dust. Murmurs ripple like wind through wheat. Some senators are already seated. Others loiter in clusters like gossiping crows. A few scribes scurry along the sides, carrying scrolls and ink pots. You catch sight of a rival waving too enthusiastically. He's up to something. You make your way to your designated seat. It's not in the center, not yet, but close. Closer than you were last year. Progress is a long game. You sit, careful not to wrinkle your toga. You nod again, this time slower. Deliberate. You are here. A Roman senator, ready to do something important. Probably. The session begins, not with a bang, but with a collective shuffle. Tunics shifting, scrolls unrolling, throats clearing in synchrony. The presiding consul takes his place, straight-backed and solemn, and raises his hand in that age-old gesture of authority. His voice echoes off the marble, beginning the formalities. Blessings invoked, attendance noted, the daily agenda unscrolled by a scribe whose robe looks one size too large. You sit motionless, hands tucked into the fold of your toga like a statue that could bite if it needed to. The morning debates are, predictably, tedious. First, a discussion on aqueduct repairs outside Tiber. The pipes are cracked, or clogged, or perhaps infested with frogs, depending on which senator you ask. You listen with one ear while your gaze drifts to the ceiling. It's a masterpiece of Roman engineering. Carved wood, perfectly balanced beams, and just enough detail to be impressive without upstaging the speakers below. It's also a great place to look when you're pretending to think deeply. A scroll is passed to you. A petition from the olive merchants of Campania, requesting tax relief after a blight ruined their crops. You make a mental note to consider supporting it, not out of sympathy for the olive farmers, but because your cousin just married into one of those families. Politics, after all, is just strategic empathy. Across the room, Senator Pulcher stands to speak. You brace yourself. Pulcher is the kind of man who considers his own voice the greatest gift to Rome. He launches into a poetic condemnation of rising brick prices. Yes, brick prices. He compares the cost of construction to the collapse of civic virtue. A metaphor so tortured, even Cicero would have asked for mercy. You suppress a yawn. Barely. Still, amidst the boredom, something soothing creeps in. The rhythm of debate, the weight of centuries pressing down through each tradition, even the occasional sarcastic cough from your fellow senators. It all forms a strangely calming lullaby of power. A junior senator tries to interrupt. Bad form. He's glared into silence. You shift slightly, adjusting your toga yet again. It has developed a personal vendetta against comfort. Then comes the vote. A show of hands, a few murmured agreements, a couple of passive-aggressive abstain-s. The aqueduct motion passes. Barely. Rome's frogs shall live to swim another day. And just like that, the topic shifts. Now, religious festivals. Should the upcoming Feri Latini be expanded to include another day of chariot races? You don't even care about the races, but you suspect your neighbor is hoping to corner the barley concession. You raise your hand in polite opposition, then lower it slowly, so it looks like you're reluctantly being overruled. This way, no one wins, but you don't lose either. Historians still argue whether senators truly influenced the republic, or simply existed to make corruption look ceremonial. Your eyes drift toward the small window at the far end of the chamber. Through it, you catch a glimpse of sunlight glinting off the Capitoline. You imagine, for a brief moment, being up there instead, feeding crumbs to birds, away from the relentless tides of political bickering. But you're here, and duty, or at least the illusion of it, keeps you seated. A minor scandal is mentioned next. A praetor has allegedly misallocated funds for temple restoration. Gasps follow, though everyone pretends to be more shocked than they really are. You know half the men here have done worse, with fewer witnesses. But still, the ritual of outrage must be performed. You whisper a remark to the senator beside you. Something about divine miscalculations. He chuckles just loud enough to be noticed, then quickly straightens up. You've made an ally today, or at least someone who owes you a laugh. The consul wraps the marble with a rod. Time for closing remarks. Senators begin to stretch discreetly, their bodies giving away the truth. This wasn't governance, it was endurance. As the chamber begins to empty, you linger. Not out of sentimentality, but strategy. You approach Senator Fabius. Wealthy, influential, easily flattered. You compliment his speech, which was terrible. He beams. You mention a mutual interest in lands south of Arretium. He nods. Progress is measured in nods. You exit together, strolling down the steps into the light. A client approaches, bowing respectfully and murmuring something about his brother's property dispute. You promise to look into it, which is Roman for probably not. Your litter awaits. But before entering, you pause, breathing in the scent of warm stone, laurel leaves, and civic ambition. Rome may not be perfect, but it's yours to navigate. One calculated step at a time. You climb into your litter once more, the curtains drawn partially closed. Not fully, mind you. Just enough to convey an air of dignity, while still allowing anyone important to see you should they happen to glance your way. The bearers grunt softly as they hoist you up, their feet moving in practiced rhythm down the cobbled streets. Inside, you shift to the left. There's a loose nail on the right-hand panel that snagged your toga more than once. You really must have that fixed. One more hole and the thing will start to resemble a pirate sail. Now that your senatorial duties are done, at least for the morning, it's time to make your rounds. Being a Roman senator isn't just about sitting in marble halls and debating the price of bricks. It's about visibility, influence, presence. And sometimes, that presence is best demonstrated at someone else's house. Your first stop, a domus in the Subura district, owned by a former general turned aspiring playwright. Yes, really. His plays are dreadful, long, moralizing things with more monologues than sense, but he throws a lavish brunch. And more importantly, he's rumored to be bankrolling a few political campaigns. You don't like his taste in poetry, but you do like his coin. As your litter reaches the edge of Subura, the city changes. It's louder here, Messier. The buildings lean inward like gossips sharing secrets. The smell of baked clay, garlic, and something vaguely dead mingles in the air. You peek through the curtain, vendors, prostitutes, beggars, all pressing against the edges of Roman respectability. You catch a glimpse of a street performer swallowing a sword, or a very shiny stick, it's hard to tell. Two children chase a pig down a narrow alley. A man yells about pickled fish. Someone's lyre playing is just slightly off-key, which irritates you more than you'd care to admit. Historians still argue whether Subura was truly the heart of Roman life or merely its bowels. Your litter stops. You dismount with a practiced hop and adjust your toga yet again. It's beginning to feel like a woolen octopus. A slave announces your arrival, and you're led through a tiled vestibule into a shaded atrium. The host greets you with open arms and far too many teeth. Perfume lingers in the air like an eager guest. "Ah, my noble friend," he cries, offering you a goblet before you've even sat down. You accept with a nod. The wine is good. Not excellent, but good, thick with honey and just enough spice to pretend it's exotic. You sip slowly, nodding along as your host waxes lyrical about his latest tragedy, the fall of Troy, but sadder. You feign interest, throwing in a and a fascinating every so often. He doesn't notice. He's too busy comparing himself to Virgil. You glance around the room. Senators, merchants, a few well-dressed freedmen. One of them catches your eye and raises a cup in greeting. You return the gesture. That's Lucius, wealthy from shipping, mildly corrupt, and always 2 steps ahead in social games. You make a mental note to invite him to your next cena. The food is served. Cold meats, olives, cheese, a soft bread dusted with something that looks like ash but tastes like heaven. You eat with measured pace, always aware of posture, of presence. No garlic stuck in your teeth. No crumbs on the toga. You are a senator, not a barbarian. Your host is still talking. Now about politics. He suggests a motion he plans to present. Something about moral reform in the provinces. You nod slowly, non-committally. You'll wait to see how the wind blows before attaching your name to it. Smart senators don't ride the waves. They study the tides. Someone makes a joke about the Vestal virgins. The room laughs, too loudly, perhaps. You smile politely, resisting the urge to remind them that irreverence carries weight when temples still stand. As you recline further, the midday warmth begins to settle in. A nearby fountain trickles softly, and the scent of citrus trees in the courtyard drifts over you. For a brief moment, your eyelids lower. Just for a second. Not quite a nap, more of a blink with intention. A servant brings you a second drink. You thank him with a quiet nod, and he retreats like a shadow. The gathering begins to shift. People rise, exchange farewells, whisper deals. You do the same, shake a few hands, Make 3 new promises you'll carefully forget, and compliment the host's sandals. He beams. The sandals are hideous. Back into your litter you go, this time reclining just a little more. Your next destination is across the city, a small temple where your wife insists you light incense in honor of her family's patron goddess. You don't mind. The priest there owes you a favor, and it doesn't hurt to be seen offering piety now and then. As your litter jostles gently through the busy streets, you exhale slowly. The Senate, the brunch, the laughter, the soft lies and softer cheese, they're all part of the day's performance. And you're just getting started. You arrive at the small temple nestled between bustling shops and humble homes, a quiet oasis amid Rome's ceaseless clamor. The scent of burning incense curls around you like a gentle fog, mingling with the faint aroma of fresh bread from a nearby bakery. You step out of your litter, adjusting your toga one last time before entering. Inside, the air is cooler, shadowed by tall marble columns etched with delicate reliefs of laurel wreaths and mythical creatures. The priest, an elderly man with a weathered face and surprisingly bright eyes, greets you warmly. He motions for you to kneel before the altar, where a modest flame flickers beside a statue of the goddess Fortuna. You dip your fingers into the sacred water basin and sprinkle droplets over the flame, watching as it flares momentarily before settling back into a steady glow. You offer a brief prayer, not because you're particularly devout, but because appearances matter. Besides, you figure Fortuna appreciates a little attention, especially from someone in your position. The priest launches into a quiet sermon about luck, fate, and the subtle dance between them, a dance you're quite familiar with. He reminds you that even the most powerful senators are subject to the whims of fortune. You smile knowingly. It's a comforting thought, really. No matter how carefully you plot, some things are simply out of your control. Historians still debate whether such rituals were sincere acts of faith or elaborate performances for political gain. You linger a moment longer, watching the smoke curl upward, tracing invisible patterns against the temple's ceiling. Outside, the city hums on, indifferent to your reverence. You step back into the sunlight, feeling the weight of your toga and the city's expectations settle back onto your shoulders. Nearby, a group of children chase a hoop, their laughter ringing out like a melody that cuts through the stone and marble of Rome. You pause, briefly transported away from the Senate's endless speeches and the endless social maneuvers. But duty calls. You signal your litter bearers, preparing for the next stop, a visit to a trusted ally's villa on the Aventine Hill. There, over olives and wine, political alliances will be tested and forged with whispered words and knowing glances. As you ascend the city's hills, the air grows cooler, the view broader. You watch the Tiber snake lazily below, its waters catching the afternoon light. Rome stretches endlessly, a sprawling tapestry of ambition, tradition, and quiet desperation. You settle back into the rhythm of the day, knowing the afternoon's conversations will shape tomorrow's decisions. And in this city, where every gesture carries meaning, every word is a step on a precarious ladder. The villa on Aventine Hill is a welcome change from the city's usual clamor. Its tall cypress trees and fragrant gardens create a serene atmosphere, a perfect backdrop for the delicate art of political conversation. You step from your litter and are greeted by your ally, a sharp-eyed senator known for his skill in negotiation and his surprisingly good taste in olive oil. You move through the shaded peristyle, the soft crunch of your sandals on mosaic tiles echoing faintly beneath the chatter of guests reclining on plush couches. The villa buzzes quietly with discussion, some political, some personal, all strategically veiled. You take a seat beside a fountain where water trickles gently, a soothing counterpoint to the undercurrents of rivalry and alliance weaving through the room. The air smells of lavender and fresh figs, a subtle reminder that even the most hardened politicians appreciate the finer things. As wine is poured, you exchange pleasantries, careful to balance warmth with cautious distance. You discuss the recent motions in the Senate, trading insights and veiled warnings. Your ally shares rumors of shifting loyalties, while you mention the upcoming vote on grain subsidies, watching for reactions. Historians still debate whether such gatherings were genuine camaraderie or merely extended stages for political theater. A servant brings small plates of roasted dormice, considered a delicacy among Rome's elite, and slices of pungent cheese. You nibble thoughtfully, savoring the salty richness as you consider the conversation. The dormouse, you recall, was once thought to bring good luck, though now it mostly brings a stomachache if overindulged. You laugh softly at a joke about the Senate's inability to agree even on the color of their togas. The room warms with quiet amusement, a brief reprieve from the day's weightier matters. As afternoon light filters through olive branches, you lean back, letting the sound of the fountain and distant city life wash over you. These moments, you think, are the true currency of power, quiet, calculated, and drenched in subtlety. Your mind drifts briefly to your morning visits, to the goddess Fortuna's temple, and to the laughter of children playing in the streets. In Rome, the dance of politics is endless, but so too is the pulse of life beneath it all. The villa's shadows lengthen, and you prepare to move on. There are still many steps in your day, and many faces to greet. As the sun starts its slow descent, you find yourself heading toward the Forum, the beating heart of Rome's political life. The marble steps gleam softly in the fading light, worn smooth by centuries of feet and fervent speeches. You step out of your litter and take a deep breath, the mix of dust, sweat, and olive oil filling your nostrils, grounding you in the city's restless energy. The Forum is alive with senators, merchants, and citizens, each wrapped up in their own dramas and ambitions. You navigate through the throng, exchanging nods and brief greetings, mindful of every glance and whisper. This is where reputation is made and unmade, where your words can tip the scales of power or send you spiraling down the ranks. You reach the rostra, the speaker's platform, where orators rally the crowd with impassioned speeches. You listen, arms folded, as a young senator fumbles through a proposal on trade tariffs. The crowd's reaction is mixed, some nodding, others murmuring disapproval. You suppress a smirk. He'll learn soon enough that politics is as much about performance as policy. Nearby, a vendor hawks figs and olives, their sweetness a pleasant contrast to the day's tensions. You pocket a few figs, a small luxury amid the public spectacle. Historians still debate whether the Forum was truly a place of democratic discourse or a stage for aristocratic theater. A familiar face approaches, an old rival turned occasional ally. You exchange a few carefully measured words, avoiding direct confrontation but making clear your stance. It's a delicate dance, and you tread it expertly. As the sky blushes pink and orange, you ascend the steps of the Curia, the Senate House. Inside, the air is cooler, heavy with the scent of wax and parchment. Senators gather, their robes rustling softly, voices lowered in confidential conversation. You take your seat, ready to engage in debates that will shape the empire's future. The routine is familiar, the stakes eternal. The day has been long, filled with subtle battles and quiet victories. You settle in, knowing that the morning's routine was only the beginning. The Senate session drifts on, the murmur of voices rising and falling like the tides of the Tiber below. You listen intently as bills are debated, some mundane, like road repairs, others with the potential to shift power balances, such as land reforms for the veterans. Your mind weaves through the rhetoric, weighing alliances and gauging the undercurrents beneath each statement. The senators are a varied bunch, some seasoned veterans with graying beards, others ambitious youths eager to prove themselves. You catch glimpses of old friends and foes alike, their expressions revealing more than their words. The subtle nod, the slight raise of an eyebrow, all part of the unspoken language of power. At one point, a proposal to increase grain imports sparks a heated discussion. You recall the recent poor harvests and the delicate balance between appeasing the urban poor and safeguarding the treasury. Historians still argue whether these debates truly reflected public interest or the elite's desire to maintain control. Throughout the session, a small bronze statue of Mars presides silently, a reminder of Rome's martial spirit. You glance at it and wonder how many battles have been won or lost because of decisions made in rooms like this. A messenger arrives with a sealed letter, discreetly passing it to you. You unfold it carefully. News of a distant province, a rebellion simmering beneath the surface. Another reminder that Rome's reach is vast and fragile. The session stretches on as twilight deepens. You feel the weight of responsibility settle on your shoulders, a blend of pride, fatigue, and quiet resolve. The speeches fade into background noise as your thoughts drift to the evening ahead, where strategy and leisure will intertwine. As the Senate finally adjourns, you rise, the rustle of your toga echoing in the grand hall. Outside, the city lights flicker to life, and the air cools with the promise of night. You step into the courtyard, already planning your next move in the endless game of Roman politics. Leaving the Senate behind, you stroll toward the bustling market district where vendors are packing up their wares under the amber glow of oil lamps. The aroma of roasting chestnuts mingles with the faint tang of salted fish, and the sounds of laughter and bargaining drift softly through the evening air. You pause to observe a group of street performers weaving tales and songs, an entertaining distraction from the day's gravity. You recall the peculiar Roman custom of the evening meal, or cena, which often stretched long into the night, especially among the elite. Tonight, you're invited to a modest dinner at a fellow senator's domus, a chance to relax while discussing less formal matters. The food you expect will be simple but hearty, perhaps lentils stewed with herbs, crusty bread, and a generous pour of Falernian wine. Historians still debate the extent to which these dinners were social gatherings or subtle arenas for political maneuvering. Either way, you prepare to play your part. You arrive at the domus, welcomed by warm smiles and the clinking of cups. The sounds of a lyre provide a gentle soundtrack, and the flickering candlelight casts dancing shadows across the frescoed walls. The conversation flows easily at first, touching on the day's events and the city's gossip. As the meal progresses, talk turns to more delicate subjects: upcoming elections, alliances to be forged, and rumors of imperial favor. You listen carefully, weighing words and watching reactions. A joke about the emperor's unpredictable moods lightens the mood, reminding you that even in power, humor holds its place. Among the dishes, you spot a small plate of dormice glazed with honey, a delicacy you nibble cautiously, recalling last week's mild stomach upset. The juxtaposition of luxury and caution is a fitting metaphor for your life. As the evening deepens, you find a quiet moment to reflect on the day's journey, from the temple rituals to the Senate debates, to this intimate gathering. Rome's layers unfold around you, complex and intertwined. You sip your wine slowly, letting the warmth spread as the night wraps the city in its gentle embrace. The conversation at dinner gradually softens, turning toward the more personal side of life. You hear stories of family triumphs and tribulations, marriages arranged and friendships tested. A child's laughter drifts from another room, reminding you of the innocence that often feels distant amid politics and power. You recall that Roman households were bustling centers of activity, with slaves and freedmen moving quietly to keep life running smoothly. Your host's attentive servants replenish wine and clear plates with practiced efficiency, an unspoken dance behind the scenes of aristocratic life. Historians still argue about the true freedoms and constraints within these households, especially regarding the lives of women and slaves. You think about your own family and the expectations placed upon you both as a senator and a paterfamilias. The flicker of candlelight casts warm hues across intricate mosaics depicting mythological scenes, heroes and gods frozen in eternal struggle. You muse on how these stories, told and retold, shape not only Rome's identity but also the ideals you strive to embody. A playful debate arises over which god best represents the city's spirit. Jokes fly about Mercury's quick wit versus Jupiter's commanding presence. You smile, feeling the camaraderie and lightness amidst the serious talk. Outside, the city hums softly with night sounds, the distant bark of dogs, the murmur of late travelers, the gentle rustling of olive trees in the evening breeze. You take a deep breath, savoring this moment of calm. As dessert, a simple dish of fresh figs and honey is served. You feel the weight of the day lifting. The slow cadence of the evening invites rest, and your thoughts begin to drift. You think about the path ahead, the duties awaiting you, the alliances to nurture, and the legacy you hope to leave. Rome is vast, ever-changing, but tonight, in this quiet domus, it feels intimate and manageable. You rise from the dinner table, the warmth of the evening lingering as you step out into the cool night air. The streets of Rome are quieter now, lit softly by flickering torches and the occasional glow of a lantern. The air carries a faint scent of pine from the nearby groves and the distant promise of the Tiber's gentle current. Your path leads you toward the baths, a favored ritual to cleanse both body and mind after the day's exertions. The baths of Caracalla loom ahead, vast and impressive even under moonlight. Inside, the sounds of water flowing and voices murmuring create a soothing symphony. You enter the tepidarium first, the warm air wrapping around you like a gentle embrace. Here, you relax on marble benches, letting tension melt away. A slave offers you a fragrant oil to anoint your skin, a blend of myrrh and cedar that leaves a subtle scent. Historians still debate the true social function of the baths, whether they were primarily centers of hygiene, leisure, or political networking. You consider that perhaps they were all of these, a reflection of Rome's layered society. The caldarium, with its steaming pools, invites you next. You sink into the warm water, feeling the heat penetrate muscles and bones. Nearby, a group of men engage in light-hearted conversation, discussing gladiatorial games and recent triumphs. You pause to remember the peculiar practice of using a strigil, a curved metal tool, to scrape away oil and dirt. The sensation is oddly satisfying, a tactile reminder of ancient routines. As you move to the frigidarium, the sudden chill sharpens your senses, invigorating you for the evening's final acts. You wrap yourself in a soft linen cloak, feeling the fabric's cool smoothness. The baths, you realize, are more than just a place to wash. They are a sanctuary, a place where Rome's bustling energy pauses, even if only briefly. You step out into the night, refreshed and ready for the quiet solitude that awaits. The night deepens as you make your way back to your domus, the city's quieter side now revealed. The narrow streets, usually bustling, are subdued and shadowy, with only the occasional flicker of a torch or the distant call of a night watchman breaking the silence. You feel a rare sense of solitude amidst the sprawling empire. Inside your home, familiar scents greet you, the faint aroma of burning oil lamps and the soft musk of aged wood and stone. The slaves move silently, respectful of the hour and your need for rest. You exchange brief nods, appreciating the calm efficiency that keeps your household humming smoothly even in the late hours. You retreat to your private study, a room lined with scrolls and manuscripts. The flickering lamp casts dancing shadows on the walls as you settle into your chair, the weight of the day gradually lifting. Here, you indulge in a final moment of quiet reflection, perhaps reading a passage from Homer or jotting down thoughts for your next speech. Historians still debate how much private study shaped Roman senators' public lives. But you know for yourself that these moments of solitude sharpen your mind and steady your spirit. A gentle breeze slips through the open window, carrying the distant murmur of the city to your ears. You close your eyes briefly, savoring the peace before the night's end. As sleep beckons, you recall the rituals, the conversations, the subtle power plays that filled your day. Rome's grandeur feels both vast and intimate, a living tapestry you are woven into. You rise and extinguish the lamp, the room falling into darkness, but your thoughts gently drifting toward rest. Tomorrow awaits, with all its challenges and opportunities. But for now, you allow yourself the quiet embrace of night. Your sandals fall silent on the marble floors as you enter your sleeping quarters. The room is dimly lit, bathed in the golden flicker of a single oil lamp. Soft linen sheets have been laid out on your wide, low Roman bed. A servant waits nearby with warm water to rinse your hands. An old tradition you perform more from habit than hygiene. The room smells faintly of lavender and cedar, oils gently dabbed onto wooden carvings and cushions to invite rest. You let your toga slip from your shoulders and change into a simple tunic, its fabric cool and familiar against your skin. Your body is tired but not weary, a pleasant heaviness that follows a day well spent. You sit on the edge of the bed, gazing briefly at the coffered ceiling above. The patterns remind you of order and structure, much like Rome itself. There's comfort in symmetry, in rituals that repeat. They give the chaos of politics and the noise of the forum a framework. Tonight, your thoughts drift to your ancestors. You imagine them walking these same marble floors, rising early for Senate debates, dipping their feet into the same bathhouse pools, and pacing through decisions that shaped the Republic. Some were remembered with statues, others only in dusty family records. You wonder where you will fall in that continuum. What stories will be whispered about you in some future domus? Historians still argue whether legacy was truly a Roman's greatest pursuit, or whether most simply did their best to survive and adapt. You suspect the truth, as always, lies somewhere in between. You blow out the lamp, and shadows reclaim the room. The silence is deep now, undisturbed by city clamor or domestic duty. Your head sinks into the pillow as the linen sheet is drawn up over your shoulder. The cool fabric, the soft breeze, and the steady rhythm of your own breath merge into a single soothing lull. And as your eyes close, Rome, its sounds, its smells, its weight, gently slips away. And now, with the candles snuffed and the city quiet, your journey fades into the softness of sleep. The marble halls, the murmuring fountains, and the scent of warm bread from the morning all melt into a gentle blur. The long road of duty, discipline, and deliberation narrows into a peaceful path, one that leads only to rest. Your thoughts slow, like the Tiber at dusk, gliding past temples and taverns alike with calm indifference. Your limbs, once taut with purpose, are weightless now, no longer required to stand tall in the Senate or bow at temple steps. Outside, the stars scatter over Rome's rooftops, their light delicate, ancient, and constant. Just like this city you've walked through today, vibrant yet eternal, chaotic yet composed. There's nothing left to plan, nothing more to say, just the rhythm of your breath, the coolness of your sheets, and the gentle hum of a world winding down. Let go. Sink in. You are safe. You are home. You are asleep.